ever deal with somebody who, no matter how hard you try, just there's nothing about them that benefits your life and your well-being, yet you still seem to keep that person around? What is that about? What is it about that person that you will continue to put yourself on the back burner to try to make that person fit when they're clearly a square and you're trying to fit them in your circle? What is that? And why is it that you seem to never be able to tell that person no, no matter how much that toxic person affects your life? What is that about? Let's get into it. I remember watching the movie The Takers. I'm going to use that as an example. In the movie The Takers, Idris Elba, he had a sister who was a crack fiend, right? She was a drug addict. And when you look at that movie, ultimately, his care for his sister and trying to save her when she was totally toxic ended up being his downfall. Because, yeah, he was a criminal. He was into a lot of things that he shouldn't have been into. But he would have got away with it. But trying to save his sister ended up costing him his fortune, per se, right? And that's how things are a lot of times in life. A lot of people just don't know how and when to turn away from that toxic person. And we got to learn how to do that. You got to learn how to say no to people that don't affect you in a good way and be happy with that decision. A lot of times we keep people around, out of guilt or out of feeling like you don't want to be the person who allowed them to fall all the way down. When a lot of times they fell already. They already on the ground. And they want to drag you down. They call it crabs in a barrel, right? If you ever see the little shellfish in a barrel piled on top of each other, there's always one trying to get to the top and the other one is always pulling them down. And a lot of times, that's the way we deal with things in life. We always got somebody around that doesn't see your vision, that doesn't get the big picture, that doesn't want to see you get to where you trying to go, even if they get the big picture. And you got to learn that it's all right to tell that person no. You got to learn that it's okay to cut that person off, no matter how much it hurts their feelings and no matter how much you're affected by it. Trust me, in the long run, you'll be better, you'll sleep better, and you'll find your way to success. So learn how to tell that toxic person no. It's going to benefit you. Learn how to be happy with things that benefit you instead of satisfying other people and their feelings. Because a lot of times that's the problem with your growth. You too concerned with making another person happy, or you allowing that person to use reverse psychology on you and make you feel bad about something that you really don't feel bad about. And you really know the answer to the questions you ask, but you're allowing that person to manipulate you in a way that you're second guessing what you really know you want. You got to learn that it's okay to tell that person no. You got to understand that it's a powerful thing to be able to say no, especially to toxic people. It's not rocket science. You know when a person is negative or affecting you negatively in every instance, and every time you try to help them, it backfires on you. You got to understand that there's power in releasing that person from in your presence and just getting them out the way. Many successful people are successful because they finally understood the people that was weighing them down, they had to move them out the way. And people understand that even down to the drug game. I remember in another part of my life where I wasn't thinking so clearly and I was into other things, I remember dealing with some people who told me the prices wasn't right and you got to move the middleman out the way. And I remember feeling like, well, damn, I wouldn't know you had it not been for the middleman. And I remember that person telling me the prices is messed up because of that middleman. You got to move him out the way. And I was like, damn, am I going to allow business to not take place because of somebody who's messing the game up? Or am I going to listen to the person that's telling me how to win when he says, hey, move that person out the way? That person is toxic. He's bad for business. Moving forward in life, when I'm on some better things, I find that the message is the same because fundamentals don't change. When there's a bad apple in the bunch, you got to get rid of the bad apple or it spoils the whole bunch. In order to be successful, you got to be able to recognize where the sin is. You got to be able to recognize where the foolishness is. And you got to be able to be happy with saying no to that person that is in the middle of your success and move them out the way. So that's just something I wanted to talk about. I wanted to, really focus on that because this is something that I have to always reflect on for self, and I'm giving that message to you. So understand the power in being able to say no to that toxic person, first and foremost, and even to the people that's not so toxic. When you make a decision, stand on that decision and realize you have power and actually letting your yays be yays and your nays be nays. One of the things that not being able to say no to toxic people can do is lead to stress and anxiety. It's a proven fact that people with high levels of stress and anxiety, 9 times out of 10, they always have a negative group of people around them in some form or another. If it's not a group, it's an individual person who just seems to stress that person out. Long term, it could lead to mental health issues. So stress and anxiety is one of the negative impacts of not being able to just man up or woman up sometime and tell your friend or your loved one, no, you toxic. You always asking for something. You affect me in a negative way. Every time I deal with you, it seems like my thing that I got going on is going downhill. And you got to learn how to say no about that thing. And then there's the thing where you end up with low self-esteem because over time, dealing with some negative person, it really affects you in how you look at yourself. It does. It affects you in how you look at yourself over time, because that negative behavior, it's like cancer. It's going to rub off on you in the long run. It's just going to trickle right down and the people you be around at some point, it affects you and start affecting the way you are to where you're not recognizable, so it lowers your self-esteem in the long run. That's why there's power in telling that person no, because when you learn how to tell that person no, it means you learning how to focus on telling yourself yes, and that's not being selfish, but sometimes you have to really focus on yourself and your health, your self-esteem, your goals. Because when you got a negative person around you and other people recognize it, they don't want to be around you. So While you trying to hang on to the person that don't really want to see you succeed, you running off the people that are actually healthy to your success. And you don't even recognize you isolating yourself. Before you know it, you find yourself feeling lonely. You find yourself feeling socially disconnected. And it's like the only person you connected to is the most negative person you could be around. And that can't be good for you. Over time, you will start to realize that when you got somebody, this is why they called the person toxic. This is why in today's relationship world, they call it having a toxic relationship, right? And people are addicted to it. But you will notice over time, it actually even affects you physically, right? It leads to having more headaches, right? It leads to being, like we said in the beginning, it leads to being stressed out, right? It leads to insomnia. You find yourself over time, you can't even sleep because you always thinking about, damn, if I would have just left that person at home, I might not have gotten that fight in that situation. I might not have blew it at that meeting. I might not have ruined myself from making that big deal that I worked so hard for. All because I brought that person along, or I allowed that person to manipulate my thoughts when I knew going in that I knew what I wanted to say and I knew what deal I wanted to get out of it. That causes headaches. That causes high blood pressure. That causes insomnia. Now you can't sleep, right? All because you didn't use your power in telling that person no. And this is crazy that we do these things to ourselves. You got to recognize that toxic people will play on your emotions and your feelings in a way that they want you to believe that they're helping you when they actually manipulating you and making you feel more helpless than anything. All because they want the attention, they want the power, they want to stand out, they want to be the man. And it just weighs you down. It just makes you tired at the end of the day. You got to find a way to tell that person, listen, opinions are like assholes and everybody have one. And I'm cool on yours. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn how to say that. You got to learn how to do what's best for you. And a lot of times that takes self-examination. But you can't examine yourself if you always allowing that toxic friend or acquaintance to be the voice in your ear. So much to the point that you can't even hear your own self. You can't hear your own thoughts. You gotta learn to tell them no. Like Cat Williams said, P. Diddy be wanting to party and you got to tell him no. That's that toxic friend. You gotta learn to tell them no. And when you tell that person no, you'll learn to look outwardly and see all the relationships that it ruined because of that person. The family relationships, the business relationships, the social relationships. Having that toxic person around will ruin those things. And you got to learn how to see it. You got to learn when to recognize that this thing is totally affecting your life, and you got to learn how to fix that thing. Sometimes you're the toxic person. Sometimes you got to step back and find out what you're doing to be that toxic person that's affecting your own life. You know, difficulty setting boundaries, even for yourself, right? And recognizing when someone else is toxic to your life or your decisions is toxic to your own life. Being able to set those boundaries on that behavior, sometimes it's challenging. I'm going to just call it like it is. Sometimes it's challenging because we learn how to get set in our own ways, right? But you got to learn how to enforce healthy boundaries for yourself. And you got to learn how to enforce healthy boundaries with the people you're dealing with. You got to learn how to do it, because if you don't, that thing will roll off into other relationships. And going back up the ladder, I think it was the fourth point I made, you'll find yourself being isolated. You'll find that now nobody wants to be around you. You'll find that you the negative person, because you that negative person, you don't know how to tell no. His behavior rolled off on you, and now you find yourself that you the person nobody wants around. Overall, not being able to identify and address toxic behavior with yourself or in a friendship, it has a significantly negative impact on your overall well-being and your life. So what's the point of all of it? The point is it's important to prioritize your mental and emotional health. How? By surrounding yourself with positive and supportive individuals, and recognizing by self-examination when you're off, when you're negative and toxic, finding a source to fix that thing and fixing it. At the end of the day, you got to examine yourself. When you examine yourself, you'll be able to better examine the people around you and know how to use your power in telling that person, listen, bro, no, I'm cool. I'm tired of being around you. I can't do it no more, and I'm gone. Just like I'm gone from this video. Sorry, Amos. Peace.